The haunting laughter. The night was cold and moonless as the wind howled through the tall, skeletal trees that surrounded the Northwood Mental Hospital. Inside the asylum, the inmates slept soundly, or at least they appeared to. Deep within the high-security ward, confined to a small cell, there was one patient who hadn't slept a wink in years. His name was Jasper, and he was known as Jolly, the clown. Once a popular children's entertainer, his descent into madness was swift and brutal, triggered by a tragic accident that left him scarred physically and emotionally. He'd been committed to Northwood for the safety of himself and others, confined to a straitjacket, with his clown makeup forever etched onto his face. Jasper had spent years plotting his escape, rehearsing every detail in his mind. Tonight was the night, and as he'd done many times before, he managed to free himself from his straitjacket, the years of practice paying off. Silent as a ghost, he unlocked his cell and crept down the dimly lit corridor. Jasper had one goal: to find those who had betrayed him. His face contorted into a grotesque smile as he imagined their terrified expressions when they saw him again. The once cheerful clown was now a menacing figure, driven by vengeance and madness. The first on his list was Dr. Margaret Stone, the psychiatrist who had declared him insane and orchestrated his commitment to Northwood. He remembered her cold, clinical voice as she had testified against him in court, sealing his fate. Jasper had saved a special place for her in his twisted heart. Outside the asylum, a thick fog had settled, shrouding the moonlit grounds. As Jasper made his way toward Dr. Stone's office, he couldn't help but chuckle softly to himself, his laughter echoing eerily through the empty halls. The sound was a mix of madness and melancholy, enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. Inside her office, Dr. Stone was working late, reviewing patient files. The room was bathed in a soft, flickering light from her desk lamp, casting ominous shadows across the walls. She heard a faint sound, a distant echo of laughter, but dismissed it as a figment of her imagination. Jasper's laughter grew louder, closer. He stood just outside her office, hidden in the shadows. His painted face seemed to materialize out of the darkness, and he stepped forward, revealing himself to Dr. Stone. The blood drained from her face as she recognized him, the clown makeup smeared and grotesque. Before she could scream, Jasper lunged at her, the glint of an axe blade catching the dim light. Her terrified cries were silenced by the chilling sound of metal meeting flesh. As the first light of dawn began to break, the staff at Northwood Mental Hospital discovered the gruesome scene in Dr. Stone's office. Panic spread like wildfire among the hospital staff, and the search for Jasper began. Jasper, now covered in blood, had disappeared into the labyrinthine corridors of the asylum. He moved silently, his clown shoes making no noise on the cold, tiled floor. His laughter echoed through the building, striking fear into the hearts of those who heard it. The hospital was plunged into chaos as the staff tried to contain the situation. Police were called, and the entire area was put on high alert. Jasper's escape was a nightmare come to life, and his trail of bloodshed left no doubt that he was on a mission of vengeance. Jasper knew that he couldn't stay hidden in the asylum forever. He needed to find the others who had betrayed him and make them pay. His next target was Detective Michael Harris, the lead investigator in his case, whose testimony had sealed his fate. Detective Harris had retired from the force years ago, living a quiet life in a small, secluded cabin deep in the woods. He thought he had left the horrors of the past behind him, but they had come back to haunt him. Jasper tracked him down to the cabin, his footsteps silent in the thick forest. As he approached, he could hear the faint sound of Detective Harris chopping wood outside. The detective was completely unaware of the looming danger. With a sinister grin, Jasper raised his blood-stained axe, ready to exact his final revenge. The horror that had begun years ago with a tragic accident had now come full circle. Jasper, the once jolly clown, had become an embodiment of pure terror, driven by a thirst for vengeance that could not be quenched. As the sun set on that fateful day, the authorities finally cornered Jasper in the forest near Detective Harris's cabin. The standoff was tense, but they managed to subdue him without further bloodshed. Jasper was returned to Northwood Mental Hospital, this time under even stricter security. The nightmare was over, but the scars it left behind would never heal. And so, the asylum once again became a place of whispers and fearful glances, haunted by the memory of a clown's laughter that still echoed in the minds of those who had heard it. Even after Jasper was returned to Northwood Mental Hospital, the legend of the killer clown continued to haunt the small town and its residents. People couldn't shake off the fear that Jasper might escape again, that his laughter might return to terrify them once more. Dr. Emily Turner, a young psychiatrist assigned to evaluate Jasper, couldn't ignore the palpable tension that gripped the hospital. She had heard the stories, seen the fear in the eyes of the staff, and knew that Jasper's presence was a dark cloud hanging over the institution. Dr. Turner delved into Jasper's troubled past, poring over his case files and interviewing him extensively. She wanted to understand the man behind the clown makeup, to uncover the root of his madness. What she discovered was a tragic tale of betrayal, pain, and a descent into darkness. Jasper's stay at Northwood Mental Hospital was more closely monitored than ever. He was confined to a highly secure cell, his straitjacket reinforced with additional restraints. Yet, despite the precautions, there was an eerie calmness about him. He no longer laughed or smiled. His eyes were hollow and vacant. Dr. Turner's persistent efforts to reach him began to bear fruit. She uncovered a hidden journal among Jasper's belongings, filled with cryptic drawings and rambling writings. The journal offered a glimpse into his tortured mind, revealing the depths of his obsession with vengeance. One night, as the hospital was shrouded in darkness, Dr. Turner ventured into Jasper's cell. She was cautious, but determined to understand the man behind the clown persona. As she spoke softly to him, she saw a glimmer of recognition in his eyes, a flicker of humanity that had been buried beneath years of pain. In the days that followed, Dr. Turner continued her sessions with Jasper, slowly unraveling the layers of his madness. He spoke of the accident that had scarred him, of the betrayal by those he had trusted most, and of the overwhelming despair that had consumed him. Jasper's story was a tragic one, a tale of innocence lost and a descent into darkness. Dr. Turner couldn't help but feel a deep sympathy for the man who had once been a beloved children's entertainer. She saw glimpses of the person he had once been, buried beneath the trauma and madness. As their sessions continued, Jasper's laughter began to return, but it was different now. It was no longer the chilling, malevolent laughter of a killer clown. Instead, it was a melancholic, haunted sound, a reflection of the pain he carried within him. Dr. Turner was determined to help Jasper confront his demons and find a way to heal. She believed that redemption was possible, even for someone who had committed terrible acts. She worked tirelessly with him, using therapy and medication to stabilize his condition. Over time, Jasper's demeanor began to change. The darkness that had consumed him for so long started to recede, replaced by a glimmer of hope. He showed remorse for the lives he had taken and the terror he had inflicted upon others. The small town and its residents watched with wary eyes as the transformation of Jasper unfolded. Some remained skeptical, unable to forgive or forget the horrors he had committed. Others, however, began to see the man behind the clown, a broken soul in need of redemption. Years passed, and Jasper's treatment continued. He remained confined to Northwood Mental Hospital, but the sense of imminent danger had faded. Dr. Turner's efforts had not been in vain, and Jasper's laughter had become a symbol of his journey from darkness to the light of redemption. The legend of the killer clown had become a cautionary tale, a reminder that even the most broken among us could find their way back from the abyss. The small town and its residents learned the power of forgiveness and the importance of understanding the human capacity for change. Jasper's laughter, once a source of terror, became a haunting reminder of the darkness that could lurk within us all. It echoed through the halls of Northwood Mental Hospital, a testament to the enduring legacy of a man who had once been consumed by madness, but had ultimately found his way back to humanity. And so, the tale of Jasper, the killer clown, came to a close, leaving behind a lingering sense of unease and a haunting question. Could redemption truly exist even in the darkest of souls? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to be notified of our next stories.